there's kind of like two disparate lifestyles in Indonesia. In Java, there's city life and then there's rural life, which is more in the smaller cities and the villages. I mean, the smallest area I served in had a population of 500,000 people, so it's not rural as we would think of rural. But I'll start off with city dwelling. I spent nearly half my mission in Jakarta itself. One important thing to note is with the Islamic culture being predominant, they have the azan, or the call to prayer, that is broadcast from mosques over loudspeakers 5 times a day. So first 2 weeks there, waking up every morning at 5 a.m. from the mosque down the street. But you get used to it after a while, and it's, when you listen to it, it sounds like, even if you don't understand Arabic, it sounds really beautiful sometimes. Especially, I can remember one time, one of the smaller cities I served in, my companion and I were walking home and just listening to the it was nighttime, but listening to the call to prayer echoing off the nearby mountains was just really beautiful. Day-to-day life in the cities, you do a lot of walking. In the smaller cities, because things are a little more spread out, you get bikes. In the big cities like Jakarta, actually pretty much just Jakarta, you rely on public transportation, which is buses. Like they have a bus system called Busway that's kind of like an above ground subway, has its own special lanes and everything. They've got these small, like, repurposed cars that are called angkots, that is like they just take out everything in the back of the car and replace it with some benches that you ride in. Sometimes you'll take a taxi if you really have to go somewhere quick, or if you're transferring to a different city and you need to move your luggage. Transportation is generally cheap, plentiful. You can get where you need to go. It does take time sometimes because the city is incredibly large and sprawled out. Housing, as missionaries, we're really blessed. By American standards, our housing is, pretty Spartan, but within Indonesia, we're like upper middle class with the housing that the church procures for missionaries, so it's really nice. One of the big things about Jakarta, when the city was, it's really rainy. Indonesia is a tropical country, so there's the dry season, there's the rainy season, and Jakarta floods almost every year. So when the Dutch first took over the city 300-400 years ago, they built a nice big canal system to help drain a lot of the rainwater from the flooding. Well, the canals haven't been very well maintained, and they've also been repurposed as open sewers, so sometimes there's definitely some interesting smells as you're walking down the streets of Jakarta, but you get used to it, and it's never that bad as long as you don't go in the canals. Jakarta is often referred to as the Big Durian, and durian is hopefully if you serve there, you'll get to taste some durian. Durian is what I personally believe to be the forbidden fruit. It's this massive fruit that grows on giant trees. The skin is really tough and has very sharp points on it. Like if one of these fell off a tree and hit you, it would split your skull open. It's heavy, it's sharp. The fruit itself has the texture, like the meat inside that you have to like hack at it to get to. Smells like rotten eggs and tastes like taffy. And one of the funnier things about it is it's actually fermented, so if you eat too much of it, it can make you drunk, and that's happened to a couple of missionaries that I heard about. But that's kind of what Jakarta is. It's this massive city. It's got a lot of sharp edges. It's not the best of smells, but at its core, it's a wonderful place. It's a sweet-smelling taffy. I love serving there. I love getting to know the city, getting to know the history of the place, getting to know the people. Yeah, living in the city, it's an adventure. You got to be careful sometimes with the traffic, but it's a wonderful place to be. I know that there is crime, especially in a city that large, but as a missionary, I never encountered it. I was never in situations where I felt, well, within Jakarta, there was a couple of times, like I mentioned before, with some Islamic extremists, but that was more in the rural areas. Within the city itself, I never felt in danger. There was one time where I was transferring back from another city to Jakarta to the mission home, and I was by myself, so I flew the plane by myself, caught the buses by myself. On the last bit I had to walk about half a mile through this, they're called kampungs, they're like neighborhoods. It's almost like, it's like a third world village inside this block in a massive city. So And those are all over, but it's like this small village. It's really dark at night. I'm just walking through, this tall white guy with huge luggage bag after me, and I felt completely safe. I didn't feel like I was in danger. I never felt threatened. It may have something to do also with the fact that I'm a rather tall guy, so, you know, maybe every so often there were some ruffians watching me, but like, let's not try that guy. Outside of Jakarta, in the other cities I served in, outside of Jakarta, I served in Bogor, Solo, Magelang, and Surabaya. And in most of those cities, because they're more spread out, they're not as compact as Jakarta itself is, you'll get bikes to ride around. So you don't have to use the public transportation as much. Bogor, we did use the oncoats. They didn't have oncoats and buses to get where we needed to go. There's local foods that you can try in each of the cities that have like their own different flavors. Surabaya was really heavy on spice. They really liked their food being hot. Bogor, being one of the rainiest places in the world, had a lot more of like open fruit markets that you could go to. Shopping. A lot of the cities have a grocery market or grocery stores that you can go shop at. The biggest ones are going to be Hypermart and then Carrefour, which... Interesting. I learned afterwards Carrefour is actually a French company, but they have a lot of stores over there. So Hypermart and Carrefour are the biggest grocery stores. They're, other than the food selection, I mean, the environment is very equivalent to what you'd see in a QVC or an Aldi's or a Macy's or not a Costco or a Winco. They do have a store called Macro, which is kind of like Costco here. You buy in bulk, you buy cheap, you have to get a membership, but it's not as plentiful. I know there's one in Jakarta and there's one in Solo, but I didn't see them outside of that. A lot of the cities also have markets, which the word for market is pasar. And so you'll go to the pasars and they'll have a lot of fresh fruit. There are so many fruits over there you got to try. My personal favorite is there's this one called buah naga, or dragon fruit. When you hold it, it looks like a fireball. It's like this kiwi-shaped fruit that's got thick leaves coming off of it in the shape of flames. And you open it up and it tastes like kiwi. And then the other one that was a really good one is called salak, which is snake fruit. It's like a large strawberry, but the skin is like a diamondback rattlesnake skin. It's like plated armor and it's really tough. I cut myself more than once trying to get it open. But once you get the skin off, the fruit, the only way I have to describe the flavor of the fruit is it tastes like blue Kool-Aid. It tastes like blue Kool-Aid. There's no other way to describe it. And they've got like 19 different varieties of bananas. All like fruits that you didn't even know were possible, they've got there. So wonderful. Definitely head up the fruit markets and try some of that.